If you are a regular on my channel, you probably know that I'm not a huge fan of cheap clone consoles. I've reviewed a few of them on my channel before, and I haven't held back with my feelings about them. I can't recommend this unit at all. The sound is an absolute deal breaker for me. So when Analogue from Seattle released the Super NT in February of 2018, I was interested. For $190 you get a high-end Super Nintendo clone system with hardware emulation via FPGA and a focus on quality. Analogue claims to have created the best and most accurate clone Super Nintendo system on the market. And as someone who grew up with the Super Nintendo, I know the system pretty well, so let's see if those claims are actually true. So the Analogue Super NT has been out for about 2 weeks now, and I wasn't originally going to make this video as it's been extensively reviewed on YouTube already. However, after 2 weeks, I wanted to share my experience I've had with the system, the company Analogue themselves, and the things I like about the console, and the things I'd like to see improved, and whether this is truly worth $190 of your hard-earned money. I opted for the Super Famicom style Super NT. The plastic feels great and the color matches an original Super Famicom. There's a power switch and a reset switch on the front. There's also 2 standard controller connectors as you would expect. And flipping the console around the back is a 5V connector and a single HDMI output. There's no easy way to hook this up to an RGB CRT display, but then if you wanted to do that, I'd recommend an original Super Nintendo or Famicom with an RGB cable anyway. On the right side of the unit is an SD card slot for firmware updates. More on that later. The system is around 1/3 of the size of an original Super Famicom and has some weight to it, coming in at 1 pound and 3 ounces. In comparison, an original system weighs in at 1 pound 16 ounces. Analogue has partnered with 8BitDo to provide their line of wireless gamepads for the Super NT. I bought the Super Famicom style controller. And I do want to mention that this is an additional cost coming in at $40 US. Simply plug in the receiver into the controller port and press the red button on the receiver and the select button on the controller to sync them together. I gotta say, I'm very impressed with the build quality of this thing. It feels like an original controller in your hand, right down to the same feeling of the D-pad and the button. When you power on the Super NT, you are presented with this menu. More on that later. The first thing I tried was an original cart, Gradius 3 from Konami. This is the Japanese NTSC version, and it plays and sounds exactly how I remember, complete with slowdown. The controller feels great in my hand, and the input lag feels non-existent, so first impressions are good. But then after about 30 minutes or so, disaster strikes. So I just want to demonstrate the problem that I'm having with this Super NT. I literally just got this machine 2 days ago, and I just took it out of the box for the first time tonight. I was playing with it for about 30 minutes, and now what happens is when I try to plug power into this thing, this is the power cable that came with the system. I turn the power on, it's completely dead. My system was completely dead, and for $190 I definitely expected better quality control. The system wouldn't power up at all no matter what I did. I tried different outlets in my house, different 5V power supplies. This thing was dead. And I gotta say, I was initially a little unhappy about it. I definitely expected better quality control with this product, but as it turns out, I think I was just one of the unlucky 0.5% of users that ends up with a defective motherboard pretty much on arrival, and I just kind of chalked it up to bad luck at the end of the day. Now, I did reach out to Analogue customer support, and they were fantastic and offered to ship me a motherboard free of charge to replace the existing one that was defective. And they did that without any hassle whatsoever. And within about 2 to 3 days, I had received my new motherboard in the mail. And this has given me the excuse to tear down the Analogue Super NT and take a look inside while we do the motherboard replacement. So to open the Analogue Super NT, there are 4 screws hidden under the rubber padding at the base of the system. Just simply lift up each corner of the rubber and it will expose the screw hole. and with a Torx T5 screwdriver, just remove each screw individually. Incidentally, there doesn't seem to be any warranty sticker or anything else, so I guess Analogue has no issues if you open up your system. Then turn the case back upright and lift the top plastic portion away, and the motherboard will be exposed. The heart of the motherboard is the Altera Cyclone 5 FPGA, which emulates in hardware the circuits and chips found in an original Super Nintendo for maximum compatibility and accuracy. As suspected, the replacement motherboard I received was identical to my broken board, and swapping motherboards was easy. And with a quick test, my new board was working and I let it run for a couple of hours. So let's finally test this system out and play some games. The Super NT comes built in with Super Turrican Director's Cut and Super Turrican 2. As an Amiga owner and a big Turrican fan, this is a nice treat. There's an extensive menu with different settings that can be adjusted. The video scaler menu comes with 2x through 4x scalers. These are the same as you would find in an emulator. Now, I'm not a big fan of these as they tend to smooth the image out. More interesting, however, are the scan lines. These look best at 720p, and you have a choice of traditional scan lines or hybrid, which is more of a blended color based on the colors around the scan line that it needs to draw. The last option in this menu is a gamma boost. It's a preset amount of gamma and can't be adjusted. I do wish there was a way to set the individual red, green and blue gamma amounts, but for now, this is what we have. As mentioned, the games play great, just as they did all those years ago. I ran a few different tests for compatibility. First up, EverDrives. Yep, they work as expected without any issues. Next was Far East of Eden Zero for the Super Famicom. This cartridge is unique that it has the SPC 7110 custom chip, which can cause problems on clone systems, but the Super NT handles it perfectly. I also tested a modern licensed cartridge to see if there would be any issues here as well. This is Street Fighter II 30th Anniversary Edition that was recently released. Again, this tested perfectly. One of my originals is a PAL version of Super Metroid. This gave me some trouble initially and it complained about the region, but a quick region change in the menu and a soft reset loads it up just fine. Good stuff. It's nice having a system that you don't need to get up out of your chair, flick a switch at the back of the system, and then restart. Then I tested a Hyperkin mouse to see how well the system handles peripherals, and yep, no trouble here at all. But not everything is perfect. There are some compatibility issues with some games. One that stands out for me is Uniraces or Unirally in Europe and Australia. In 2-player mode, the second player sprite glitches around the screen and makes it unplayable. And for me, the single biggest issue with the Super NT that lets down the system is the very apparent color palette issue. This is Mega Man X by Capcom, and as you can clearly see the noticeable differences in color between an original system. Some of you may not even notice or care about this, but at $190 and perfection and excellence being advertised, I am a little disappointed at this, and hopefully this can be addressed in a future firmware update. I went back and watched other reviewers and no one seemed to mention it, even though on their captures it was very apparent as well. But stop the presses. I threw this last minute edit right before I was about to upload this video to YouTube. As of the making of this video, there has been a new 4.3 firmware update that addresses the palette issue and fixes uni-races. And as you can see now, the color palette issue is perfect. Great job, Analogue. On the flip side, however, the audio is excellent, easily the best I've heard on a clone system. I tried a couple of games that have caused trouble on most Super Nintendo emulators, and both of them sounded perfect to my ears. Overall, I gotta say I'm very happy with the Analogue Super NT, and that's what makes the FPGA system so great, is that even with some of the issues I've seen in the system, they can easily be addressed in a firmware update. Analogue has been already very diligent with their updates so far, and are clearly listening to their customers, with 3 updates already released in the past 2 weeks. That's pretty awesome. So, even after a false start, would I recommend the Analogue Super NT at $190? Absolutely. With its ease of use, excellent user experience in the menus, very high compatibility rate, it's hands down the best clone Super Nintendo console you will ever likely play. Well guys, I want to hear your thoughts about the Analogue Super NT and my experiences with it. Let me know in the comments below. Do you own a Super NT? Are you thinking about picking one up? Have I changed your mind about purchasing one? Or are you happy with emulation or an original system? I'd love to hear back from you. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.